Thanks very much, Jill. And thank you again for having me today to present. So we've heard a lot of information today about various programs, platforms, things that you can do if you are creating a virtual office or to help you sort of adopt and move forward with the new normal that is now being foisted upon us due to COVID. But I'd like to give you a bit of a background about who I am and how our firm has transitioned from being very traditional brick and mortar to more of a virtual and remote firm. And we're still in the process of a lot of that transition, but I do have as well some very helpful tips I think that can help you as you navigate this transition as well. So by way of background, Taylor Janus LLP is comprised of Taylor Janus Workplace Law as well as Spectrum Family Law. And between those two entities, we've got about 19 lawyers as well as 8 support staff spread between our offices in Calgary and in Edmonton. At the beginning of March 2020, we had never conducted any video conferences. We had never really executed documents remotely. And besides lawyers working on the odd thing from home on a laptop, most of our staff were in the office. Our lawyers were in the office doing their work sort of Monday to Friday as you typically would. In terms of telecom, yeah, we had internet, we had computers, but our telephones were from Nortel, which for those of you who remember Nortel, it was a telecoms company based out of Quebec that went out of business in the 1990s. The technology for Nortel had not been updated since that time, so the phones were about 30 years old. Very soon after we received the news, mid-March, along with all of you, that the world was changing as we knew it, we had to very quickly decide what we were going to do to adapt and survive. The first thing for us was to change our telecom system. So we upgraded our telephone system from Nortel to a company called RingCentral. That has given us the capability of hosting video conferencing, doing voicemail to email, doing e-faxes, as well as having an internal chat platform that we can use to contact our own staff, other lawyers. We can also use it to send text messages to clients from our direct office lines if we wish to do that. And so that was really an integral component to us being able to transition everybody out of the office and work remotely. So currently we do have some lawyers that are coming back to the office, but our support staff by and large, even our receptionist, is working from home and answering phones from home, dealing with clients from home, and all of that stuff. And so although we do have an IT company that we work with and that we have been using to help us navigate some of these changes, they are a consultant. So we don't have anybody in-house who's our tech support. And if you've got, around 30 people calling IT every day because this isn't working or that isn't working, they have questions, it gets very expensive very quickly. So in my role as managing lawyer, I have really had to step up to the plate, try to learn how to use some of this technology very quickly, and become a bit of an in-house tech person for the staff, for the other lawyers in our office. And so through this journey that I've taken over the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks here, I have some really, I think, practical learnings that I'd like to share with you guys. And I've boiled it down to about 5 tips for you to keep in mind when you're moving forward in adopting and bringing in some of this new technology. The first tip would be to find a tech mentor. All of this stuff can be very daunting. I think it's very exciting what James and Martine are doing with their firms, but to be honest, sometimes some of the slides just make my eyes gloss over because there's so much information. It can be hard to know, should you transition from Easy Law to Clio? If you want to use a chatbot, what is that going to do for your assistants, or how will it streamline the process? Finding a tech mentor is really key to helping you sift through a lot of this information and make sense as to whether or not bringing in some of this new technology will work for you and work for your firm. A tech mentor can be another lawyer like a James or a Martine who are very comfortable with the technology. They've used it for a number of years themselves and really have an understanding as to how that may work for you in your business. It could also be a family friend, could even be, your adult child who's really keen on tech and has an understanding as to how some of this new technology and some of the platforms work. People love to share the information that they know. They love to be helpful. And I think the first thing you want to do is make sure that you're establishing a connection with somebody who can be that tech mentor for you as you move forward. For me personally, my tech mentor is my husband. He's a software developer. He loves all things technology, and he loves problem solving. So anytime I've had an issue with work that I've tried to solve myself and I really didn't feel like picking up the phone and calling IT, usually I can send him a little text, and he's sort of ruminating on that for a couple of hours and sometimes gets back to me with something that's helpful for me to use. The next tip I would give to you is to know your hardware and know your software. It sounds fundamental and it sounds basic, but this is really the starting point for you before you start going out there and grabbing shiny new gadgets or downloading software. Your hardware really is all the physical things that make up your office. It's your computer, your printer, your mouse, keyboard, your modem, your router, your telephone. All of these things, you need to know what brands you have, what series number they are, so that if you're going out there to purchase additional items, that you can ensure that they're compatible. The other thing as well is to know your software. So it's great that you know that you've got an HP laptop, but what version of Microsoft are you running on it? What version of Outlook are you running? What version of Zoom do you currently have downloaded? Know that these things are being updated on an ongoing basis, and sometimes issues that you might run into are because you're using an older version. Just as a quick story, when we were rushing to adopt a lot of this new technology, we sent out our assistants to go online and buy some additional webcams for the office. The assistants did what we would all probably do, which is go online, type in a search for webcams, look for the cheapest thing, add it to the shopping cart, pay for it, have it sent to the office. Very quickly, we learned that these webcams were not going to work. I downloaded one, or I installed one, prior to a meeting that I had with another lawyer that was supposed to take place via video. I didn't have my laptop yet that had a built-in web camera. And as I'm downloading this using the mini disc, which should have been my first clue that it was not going to work, I was having issues. My computer kept crashing over and over and over. I contacted IT, and the first thing they had me do is look at the back of the box. What were the specifications? It turned out that the operating system that webcam was compatible for was not compatible with my computer or any computer in our office. So we had to pack up all 10 webcams and ship them back to Walmart. That was an unfortunate mistake, and it's something that could have been avoided if we had just known what the specs were for our computers in advance and ensured that what we purchased was compatible with them. The next tip that I would give to you would be that anytime you're dealing with any sort of troubleshooting issues or things that aren't working with your system, whether it's at the office or you're working remotely, take a systematic and methodical approach to trying to do some troubleshooting. Very first thing, check your hardware. Are all of the cords plugged in? Is it turned on? Is your battery charged? These things sound, elementary, but I can tell you I've had my own frustrations with things not working, just to find out that, it was a cord that had wiggled loose a little bit and needed to be popped in properly in order for my second monitor, for example, to turn back on. If that doesn't seem to be the issue, check your software. When's the last time you restarted your computer? When's the last time you installed an update? Are you running the most current version of the software that is available? A lot of times these issues can be resolved by doing some of those basic first steps. And I think this is really important because as we adopt this new technology, it can be very expensive to deal with IT consultants. And if you're having to call these people every time something's not working, you're going to see a big bill at the end of the month that you're not very happy about. So before you reach out and call them, try to do some stuff on your own to help yourself to figure out what the issue might be. At the very least, if you don't solve it, then you can tell your IT consultant, hey, you know what, I've done X, Y, and Z that hasn't worked. And that at least lets them know that you've ruled out some of these other issues. The next tip I'll give you is to become friends with Google. I know that when the internet first sort of came out, and I remember even when I was coming up in school, it was like, you don't do credible research on the internet. You can't rely on anything that's out there. That is very much not the case nowadays. If there is an issue that you're having with software or some of your hardware, hop onto Google, enter some search terms. Chances are you're going to get an article or a forum post or something will come back where somebody who was dealing with the exact same issue as you found a solution for it, and they're going to provide step-by-step instructions for how to resolve it. A lot of IT companies, that's what they're going to do when you call them and you tell them what the issue is. They're going to hop onto Google if they don't know the answer offhand, and they will go through those steps to help you figure out what the problem is. A few weeks ago, we were working on a video for this series. I had an issue where we had filmed a video using Zoom through somebody else's Zoom account, but the recording was downloaded onto my computer. I then tried to send that recording off to our video editor, but my computer wouldn't even open the .zoom file, never mind upload it to an email. And so I was trying to figure out what was going on, made sure that I had downloaded Zoom properly, made sure that my system was using the proper recording. There turned out to be some issue in terms of my computer not recognizing the recording because it wasn't my meeting that had done the recording. In any event, I reach out to my husband, who's my tech mentor, to try and fix the problem. He comes up with a brilliant solution that we were able to use to essentially trick Zoom into thinking that I had hosted the meeting in the first place. Long story short, I'm praising him about how wonderful he is and how brilliant he is. And he humbly said, well, you know what? I just Googled it. And sure enough, that's what it was. So become friends with Google, utilize it. You will be able to find the answer to most of the issues you're dealing with, particularly on some of these new video conferencing platforms, by going onto Google, asking those questions and getting an answer. The last tip I'm going to give you is practice makes perfect. Prior to having your first WebEx hearing with the Court of Appeal, try to see if there's someone else you know at another firm that's using WebEx that can set up a meeting for you, just to practice using it so that when you're there and you're in front of the justices, you're not fumbling around and accidentally muting yourself when you want to be speaking. Prior to hosting any video calls with my clients, I got on our Ring Central platform and I set up video calls with my family. So by doing that, I was able to, first of all, understand what the experience was like for them on their end as a user when someone else had invited them to the meeting. But it also helped me realize certain things that weren't immediately apparent from using the system, such as if you send an invitation to somebody who's using an iPhone, they actually had to download an app first in order to use video. Those sorts of things that I was able to iron out in advance so that when I had my first meeting with a client to review and sign a contingency fee agreement, I wasn't embarrassed. I knew how to use the technology, and more importantly, I knew enough about the system to help them troubleshoot any issues that they might be having on their end using the platform. So ultimately, at the end of the day, we are being forced to adapt to the new normal. A lot of that is going to be continuing to do work virtually, continuing to do work remotely. Clients may have significant concerns about coming into your office and meeting with you. Your staff might have concerns about coming back to the office, but you need them and you rely on them to do a lot of the things that you need to do with your work. There are ways that you can continue to move forward with the new technology that's in place, and there are ways that you can help yourself become a bit more of a technical person, even if that's not your background. My background is as a philosophy major, and I was one of those people, like James said, who wanted to avoid science and any sort of technology in my undergrad and even into law school. We're all being forced to adopt a new way of life. And at the end of the day, if I can figure it out, I think all of you can too. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak today. And I hope that the tips that I've given have been very practical and that it can help you the next time you're having difficulties. Thank you.